Here's something that most couples never think about until it's too late. A husband earns a strong Social Security benefit, $3,700 a month. His wife earns a smaller one, $1,200 a month. Together, nearly $5,000 of Social Security. Life feels good. Then he passes away. Overnight, that $1,200 check disappears permanently. She keeps his $3,700, but she just lost over $14,000 a year of household income. The mortgage didn't shrink, the property taxes didn't disappear, insurance, utilities, all the same. And here's the part that really matters. The amount of that surviving check, whether it's $3,700 or $2,400, was determined years earlier when her husband chose his claiming age. That decision was already locked in, and most couples make it without ever considering what I just described. If you're married and trying to figure out Social Security, you've probably already realized it's confusing. Spousal benefits, claiming ages, survivor rules, a lot of conflicting information, and really loud talking heads. And most of it only covers one piece of the puzzle. I'm Bob Wolfe. I'm a certified financial planner and IRS-enrolled agent, and I've helped hundreds of couples work through this exact situation. In this video, I'm walking you through all of it. How benefits work for couples, the spousal benefit myth that trips up almost everyone, when to consider claiming, survivor benefits most couples overlook, and the biggest mistakes that I see. Full picture, start to finish. How Social Security actually works for married couples. Before strategy, you need the foundation, because Social Security works differently for married couples than most people assume. When you're single, it's more straightforward. Your benefit is based on your highest 35 years of earnings. Claim early, it gets reduced. Claim late, it would grow. But when you're married, the landscape changes. And the shift I need you to make right now is to stop thinking my benefit and start thinking our household income over both of our lifetimes. As a couple, you're dealing with three types of benefits. Individual retirement benefits, each of you has your own work record and your own PIA, or primary insurance amount, which is the monthly benefit you'd receive at full retirement age. Spousal benefits. If one of you earned significantly less or didn't work at all, the lower earner may qualify for up to 50% of the higher earner's PIA. Even if you never paid into Social Security, you can qualify for spousal benefits and Medicare on your spouse's record. And survivor benefits. When one spouse passes, the surviving spouse keeps the larger of the two benefits. The smaller one vanishes permanently. Here's the fundamental misunderstanding. Social Security is not a joint pension. It feels like one, 2 deposits every month, looks like household income, but legally, those are two separate benefits attached to two separate lifetimes. The moment one of you passes, it converts from 2 checks to 1 overnight. Something else to consider is a married couple, both age 65, there's a roughly 50% chance that at least one of us lives to 90. You're not planning for one lifespan. You're planning for the longer of 2. That reality should shape every claiming decision that you make. Now, the spousal benefit. So the myth, my spouse will get 50% of whatever I get. You hear it everywhere, and it is wrong, in a way that can cost a couple up to $1,000 a month permanently. Here's what the rule actually says. A spouse can receive up to 50% of the higher earner's benefit at full retirement age, not what they actually collect. So real numbers. Jim's primary insurance amount is $2,000 a month. His wife Pam's primary insurance amount is $600. So the spousal benefit formula goes like this. You take 50% of Jim's PIA, or $1,000, and you subtract Pam's own PIA, $600. The difference, $400, is the spousal benefit. It's a top off that's not a flat 50% check. At full retirement age, Pam gets her $600 plus $400, totaling $1,000. Now here's where it bites. Jim delays to 70 and his benefit grows to $2,480. Pam assumes she gets 50% of that, $1,240. Wrong. Her spousal benefit is still based on Jim's PIA of $2,000. His delayed retirement credits help his check pay to nothing for hers. Her max is still $1,000. And if she claims early, say at 62, the spousal portion takes up to a 35% reduction, steeper than the 30% reduction on her own benefit. One more critical rule here, your spouse must have filed before you can collect a spousal benefit. Under current Dean filing rules, when you file, you're automatically considered for both your own benefit and any spousal benefit. You receive whichever is higher. No stacking, no gaming. So who does this actually matter for? Couples with meaningful earnings gap. If both spouses had strong careers with similar incomes, your own benefits likely exceed any spousal amount, making the spousal piece irrelevant. But if one of you stayed home, worked part-time, or earned a significant amount less over a long period of time, the spousal benefit can be a real component of retirement income. The takeaway? Plan around 50% of your full retirement benefit, not 50% of what your spouse collects. Get this number right before you build your retirement budget. When each spouse can consider claiming. This is the core of our video. We have 3 windows. Claim at 62, at full retirement age, or full amount, or delay to 70. Of course, there are months in between there, but this is when we need to consider when we are married. This stops being 2 separate decisions. It becomes one coordinated strategy. And getting it right versus wrong can mean hundreds of thousands of dollars over your lifetimes. I'm going to give you a framework, not a single answer. Anyone telling you everyone should claim at 62 or everyone should claim at 70 is oversimplifying. The right answer depends on your income gap, age gap, health, other income sources, your tax situation, and your goals. With that said, the general pattern that I see for most couples is the higher earner delays for as long as they can or longer, and the lower earner can claim earlier. And to help unpack this, we'll look at a couple of scenarios. Scenario number 1 includes unequal earners of the same age. James's PIA is $3,200. Maria's is $900. They're both 65. Maria delaying past full retirement age grows her benefit by 8%. But 8% on $900 is $72 a year. Not life-changing. James delaying from 67 to 70 grows his from $3,200 to roughly $3,970. An extra $770 a month. That also becomes the survivor benefit. So the strategy is Maria files early at 62, bringing in $630 a month of cash flow, and James delays to 70. Once James files, Maria picks up her spousal top-up benefit. Early income from Maria, maximum growth on the big benefit from James, strongest survivor protection. Every year, Social Security does adjust for inflation. A 3% cost of living adjustment on $3,970 is $119. A 3% on $2,240 is $67. That gap widens every year for the rest of both of their lives. Now let's look at scenario 2. Similar earners, same age. Both spouses have a PIA of $2,500. Spousal benefits are irrelevant. Neither qualifies. One claims early at 65, $2,167 a month, and the other delays to 70 for $3,100 a month. Income now from one check, maximum growth on the other. If either spouse passes first, the survivor steps into $3,100. Either way, the household income is insured further. Now, if both are in great health with other income, not as much of a legacy need, not as much of a need for the funds, and the markets are strong, they can consider delaying both, preserving more of their future guaranteed income floor, but they're going to have a trade-off of spending more of their retirement funds, potentially in a downturn. The next scenario is with a significant age gap. Our older spouse is 65, our younger is 55. The younger spouse is the higher earner with the $3,200 PIA. The older spouse files early for income. Younger spouse delays to 70, growing the benefit to $4,200. If the younger spouse passes first, the older spouse inherits to the higher benefit. Now flip it. The older spouse is the higher earner at $3,000. If they claim at 65, the survivor benefit locks in at $2,600. If they bridge with savings and delay at 70, it grows to $3,700. The younger spouse who might live for another 25 to 30 years inherits $3,700 instead of $2,600. So that is more of an income insurance for the long haul. That also is a good inflation hedge. Scenario 4. One spouse is in poor health. This is the exception. If one spouse has a serious health condition, early claiming can absolutely be the right call for that spouse. But the healthy spouse should still consider delaying because they are the probable survivor. The unhealthy spouse claims early for cash flow. The healthy spouse's benefit keeps growing. Health changes the timing, but not the framework. Now, here's the honest trade-off that nobody wants to talk about. I've just spent several minutes making a case for where it might make sense delaying. And for many couples, it could be the right move. But I'd be doing it a disservice if I didn't address what delaying actually costs in the short term, because it is not free. Every year you delay Social Security, you need income from somewhere. Usually that means drawing down from your investment portfolio, and every dollar you pull from your portfolio is a dollar that's no longer compounding. It's no longer growing, and it's no longer available to leave as a legacy to your kids or grandchildren. Let me put a finger on it. If you delay from 62 to 70, that's 8 years of living expenses being pulled from your savings instead of Social Security covering them. Depending on your spending, that could be $200,000 to $400,000 or more coming out of your portfolio during those years. You get hit by a bus at 71, you collected 1 year of higher benefit, and your heirs inherited a significantly smaller portfolio. That is the present value argument for claiming earlier. The money in your portfolio today is real, tangible, and belongs to you, a bird in the hand. The higher Social Security check in the future is a promise that only pays off if you live long enough. So how do we reconcile these two realities? Here's how I think about it. Social Security is the only income source most people have that is guaranteed, inflation adjusted, and lasts for life, no matter how long you live. Your portfolio is none of those things. It can shrink, it can crash at the wrong time, and it will eventually run out if you draw from it long enough. So the question isn't, am I leaving money on the table by delaying? The real question is, what am I buying with that delay? You're buying a permanently higher income floor for both lifetimes. You're buying a higher survivor benefit for the spouse who lives longest. You're buying inflation protection that compounds on a larger base every year. If you tried to go out in the open market and buy an annuity equivalent of your Social Security benefit, you would be surprised at how much you'd have to pay for it. And you're buying insurance against the scenario where the portfolio doesn't perform, where markets drop, where the surviving spouse gets conservative with investments at exactly the wrong time. For many couples, that trade-off is worth making, especially if the higher earner where the survivor benefit is enormous. But it is a trade-off, and anyone who tells you delaying is always the right answer without acknowledging what it costs up front isn't giving you the full picture. The couples who handle this best are the ones who run the numbers both ways. What does the portfolio look like if we claim early versus delay? What's the survivor income in each scenario? What's the tax picture? And make the decision with eyes wide open. One more angle. For many couples, the years between retirement and Social Security creates a window of unusually low taxable income, and that window can be one of the more valuable things in your financial plan. If you retired but haven't turned on Social Security, your taxable income drops. During that gap, you can accelerate income from other areas, moving money from IRAs into Roth accounts or into your bank for more flexibility. And so once Social Security kicks in, income just goes back up and that window narrows or closes. And here's where it comes full circle with our present value argument or our access to the funds of having to pull from a portfolio. Yes, you're drawing down the portfolio during those delay years. But if you're using that window to convert a chunk of portfolio into Roth dollars or distribute into flexible funds, you're not just spending it, you're repositioning things into a more tax-friendly future. The portfolio might be smaller in total, but the larger share of what remains will be never taxed again. For many couples, the tax savings from this strategy can offset a meaningful portion of the drawdown. So the Social Security decision isn't just a Social Security investment decision, it is a tax and a longevity decision. As both a certified financial planner and IRS-enrolled agent, I see both sides, the planning side and the tax side. And they are, for all practical purposes, one in the same. The higher earners benefit is the household insurance policy, but insurance has a premium. And the premium is the portfolio drawdown during the delay years. For many couples, that premium may be worth paying. One final note here, retiring together does not mean claiming together. I see this constantly. These are separate decisions. Retiring is one decision, one to claim is a totally separate and distinct one. This is the section that I wish more couples heard before they made their claiming decision. The rule, when one spouse dies, their survivor keeps the larger benefit. The smaller one disappears permanently. Household expenses don't drop by 50%. Mortgage, taxes, utilities, insurance all remain. Medical expenses often increase. The survivor faces dramatically less income with barely reduced expenses. And there is a hidden hit I call the triple hit on surviving spouses. 1, Social Security check drops and disappears. So our income drops. 2, filing status changes from joint to single, tax brackets compress, same income, higher rate. And 3, required minimum distributions continue based on single life tables. Less income, higher taxes on that income, and continued mandatory withdrawals from one individual. That is the reality that most retirement plans do not model. And survivor benefits start at age 60, not 62, like retirement and spousal benefits, if disabled, as early as 50. So the bottom line, the claiming decision isn't about maximizing income while you're both alive. It's about protecting the person that's left behind. The question I always come back to is, if one check disappeared tomorrow, would the surviving spouse still feel financially secure? If no, that tells you everything about whether the higher earner should consider delaying or not. If you're realizing this is more complex than you thought, you are not alone. Every couple's situation is different. Age gap, income sources, pensions, retirement accounts, the tax picture. If you'd like us to run the numbers for your specific situation and educate you on the risks involved here, I'll leave a link to our Healthy Financial Checkup. We will discuss these risks, how it impacts your specific situation, and how we might consider claiming in your circumstance. Link in the description below. So the biggest mistakes that couples make. Mistake number 1. I get 50% of what my spouse gets. It's 50% of the full retirement age amount. Delaying past full retirement age doesn't grow the spousal benefit. Couples build retirement budgets around a number that's wrong by $300 to $500 a month permanently. Mistake number 2, both claiming at the same time because they retired early. Retiring together is great. Claiming together might not be. It leaves the bigger benefit with no growth and locks in the lowest survivor benefit. Separate the two decisions. And mistake number 3, the lower earner delays unnecessarily. 8% growth on $900 benefit is $72 a year. Not worth the household foregoing income so that the higher earner can delay. Where 8% represents real dollars and real survivor protection. Mistake number 4, ignoring survivor benefits entirely. The most expensive lifetime mistake, optimizing for 2 checks while ignoring what happens when one disappears. If you don't ask what happens to the surviving spouse, you're solving the wrong problem. Mistake number 5, looking at the check instead of the PIA. Your monthly benefit amount reflects adjustments and deductions. Your primary insurance amount is what Social Security uses for spousal calculations. I've seen people walk away from benefits that they were entitled to because they compared the wrong numbers. Mistake number 6, not filing because I never paid in. You don't need your own work record history to qualify for spousal benefits, survivor benefits, or Medicare on your spouse's record. File the application if you're entitled. Mistake 7, ignoring the tax picture. Up to 85% of Social Security can be taxable. And this is where a tax torpedo can come into effect. Each additional dollar can generate $1.50 to $1.85 in additional taxable income. Meaning basically Social Security creates this window where a claiming decision and the tax decision are very interrelated. So here's how I'd summarize everything. Stop obsessing over the perfect filing month. Get the big 3 right. 1, household thinking. You're one household making one coordinated plan, not 2 individuals in silos making separate decisions. 2, survivor protection. Today's claiming decision determines the income floor for the person who lives longest. Plan for that person. 3, tax coordination. Social Security interacts with your tax brackets, Roth opportunities, RMDs, and your entire retirement income plan. See the full picture. Get these 3 right and the details take care of themselves. Because the gap between a good plan and a perfect one is small, but the gap between a real plan and no plan at all is enormous. You now have the full picture. Social Security is one piece of the retirement puzzle, but for a lot of couples, the bigger question isn't when to claim, it's whether they actually are ready to stop working. If you've been going back and forth on that, feeling tired of working, but not sure that the timing is right, I made a video that walks through exactly how I think about it. I recommend watching that next. See you there.